It appears nothing profitable will come about if these two radicals keep this up. So instead of continuing with this madness, I've decided to show you a slideshow that will explain a different position on this issue, the Catholic side. I know many ideas come to mind when you hear Catholic, but let's take a look at how a Catholic should see this modern moral issue.
You may be wondering why you just watched such madness these last few minutes. The point was to show the absurdity in only looking at the radical sides. The media tends to push these two together because it makes great news when two sides attack each other. This doesn't mean that any one group really thinks this way, but the result is all the same. The arguments could be clear and reasonable, but if it isn't done in a way that respects the other, then it's pointless. Honestly, if you, the viewer, are watching this and believe to your core that people with same-sex attraction are good people, the last question brought up in our mock debate asked Reverend Bob what he thought of love your neighbor as yourself. Too many times Christians pick and choose who they are going to love. Many times it only includes their friends and family, because it's tough to love those who hold completely different views on life, especially with regard to morality. If we read the Bible with open hearts and minds, we will see that Jesus told us to love our enemies. It's interesting to bring up what Gandhi had to say about his experience with Christianity. Even though he read the scriptures often, he was not a Christian. When asked why he never became one, his response went something like, "If I actually met one, I probably would have become one." Christians definitely have some ground to make up when it comes to love.
It might seem contrary to love to make a video explaining why Catholics do not accept homosexual acts as permissible. I will try to articulate some of the main reasons why Catholics do not condone same-sex actions. I say it is this way because the Catholic Church does not say that same-sex attraction in and of itself is sinful. We can never judge whether a person has sinned or not, but we can look at an action and see it as going against God's plan. Let's take, for example, a man that steals some food from the grocery store. Stealing is wrong, but the circumstances in his life may lessen his guilt. He may be unemployed and has no other means of obtaining food for his wife and kids. Just the same, a man could engage in same-sex activities but have no formation in Christian morals.
Next, we can see within natural law that two men or two women were not made to unite completely. There is no possibility of life without the intervention of science. Only a man and a woman having sexual relations will create a baby naturally.
Divine law also supports the Christian perspective. The Old Testament contains passages that Christians reject same-sex acts. Leviticus chapter 20 verse 13 uses very strong language against it. The man who has intercourse with a man in the same way as with a woman, they have done a hateful thing together, they will be put to death, their blood will be on their heads. Some radical Christian groups take this too far by literally killing homosexuals. These people have to answer to God for their hate crimes. A Christian should read this as a sin that causes spiritual death, not physical. A heterosexual that commits adultery or has premarital sex will be just as spiritually dead as a practicing homosexual.
The next quote comes from 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verses 9 through 10. Do you not realize that people who do evil will never inherit the kingdom of God? Make no mistake, the sexually immoral, idolaters, adulterers, the self-indulgent, sodomites, thieves, misers, drunkards, slanderers, and swindlers, none of these will inherit the kingdom of God. It's sickening to see signs that idiotically proclaim, gays are going to hell. Christians who say this are only casting judgment on themselves. Humans can never judge where another person is going when they die. We have to believe that God will allow every opportunity for conversion. We must pray that everyone will go to heaven no matter what their sins on earth were. This means even the worst of the worst deserve a second chance. Father Crappy said that we need to remember this statement when we see a neighbor in sin. Except for the grace of God, there go I. Once we see ourselves in another's shoes, we are able to show compassion for their struggles. It is the Christian message that we help each other out with our burdens.
Advocates that promote homosexual activity as morally permissible say that these tendencies are natural from birth. How then could this be sinful if they are born with these desires? It really does not matter for a Catholic if the cause is natural or brought about by a person's upbringing. In either case, same-sex acts are directed toward unnatural ends, like I stated before. It also goes against divine and natural law. You may not be convinced by any of these arguments, and that's okay. If not, I hope that further talk on this matter will remain productive and respectful. There are good people on both sides of the issue. The main goal of this whole project was to hopefully show that we need to look past the extremes that are usually paraded on the news. The Catholic Church promotes the use of chastity, self-mastery, and overcoming the same-sex desires, but at the same time, all men and women need to learn to control our sexual desires in all states of life.
On a final note, please don't hate our actors who played Reverend Bob and Cliff. They were simply helping to show how crazy people can get in the heat of arguments. If you have any criticism and feel that this project left something out that should have been addressed, please add your comments. That being said, thanks for tuning in. Back to you, Stacy.
Thank you, Joe. Homosexuality remains a constant debate as many states such as Massachusetts are allowing gay marriages. This will be an ongoing debate for the 2008 presidential election. Thank you again. My name is Stacy Brown with Channel 99 News. Good night.